We have been in our new farmhouse for about 4 months now, and it's funny how life just never really slows down, even when somehow you think it will. But based on experience, you should know that it won't, because I know I've said that so many times throughout these last 18 years as we've had more children, as there's been a lot of life changes, different seasons of life. I think a lot of moms of older children will tell you that you think it's going to slow down, but it actually does the exact opposite. It speeds up. So I think during this house build process, I sort of lied to myself, even though from past experience, I should have known that when we were done having to worry about all that comes with building, that life would just feel very slow and we'd just be kind of hanging around. And I don't even have a clue why I would ever think that. But that's not how it feels. We still have a lot more projects, and I think that never ends. Even if you don't have a new build, you always have ideas. And I was trying to think back to our last farmhouse and what this felt like, because I didn't really believe that living in a new house would mean everything was done. But I think without consciously thinking about it, kind of feel like that might be the case. I've had other people who have built houses who have told me that is not the case. There's always more projects you want to do. Nothing is ever finished. And of course, we all know that. So I was kind of thinking back to our last farmhouse and thinking of all the things that we still wanted to do that we never got to before we moved on to this plan of building a new house. And so just kind of remembering that that is just how life is. No matter what situation you're in, there's probably always something that's a future dream, a future goal, something you're working on. With so many children, especially as they get older, in a lot of different directions, a lot of different plans, there's just a lot going on. And Luke and I were having a discussion about this the other night on date night, kind of wondering, is this just how it is now? We're not sure if it's because we are still working on projects with the house, or because we just had a major life transition 4 months ago, moving to a new home, or if just as your kids get older and there are so many things going on, if that's just kind of how it is. Like when we had younger kids, we had this very predictable type of schedule. You know, you have a bedtime, you have nap times, you can pack all the kids up, put them in their car seats and go wherever. And that's just not how things are anymore as your family grows. I think the big key in everything is just learning to be content and joyful through all of that, and things not having to be all perfectly scheduled and organized and tidy for life to be full and fun and all of that. So I'm making a curtain. That's one of the things I'm working on this week. Not something that's adding a whole lot of stress, but something I've been wanting to do, because I have a table in our pantry that I want to act as a baking station with a lot of things stored underneath it. I think when we were first working on the design of this pantry, I kind of imagined that if I put anything on this table, it would maybe be pretty things like some bowls, or I don't even know what. I didn't give it a lot of thought, to be honest, but I knew that some practical functions would emerge after living here. And after I put my grain mill in the corner on that table, I realized that all of my grains needed to, of course, also be in the pantry. And then it'd be really nice to also keep a set of cup measurers and tablespoons and teaspoons and some baking powder and baking soda and salt. Trying to figure out how to use my kitchen and my pantry space most efficiently, and having a place where I can mix up all the dry ingredients with everything I need in that spot has slowly evolved and morphed as I've used this space into just that. And so I want a pretty little curtain to cover up a lot of these less pretty things. And I'm also thinking I might eventually want to put a curtain around the table that's in there and store even more grains in there. So I originally kind of designed the pantry in our kitchen to have 5-gallon buckets of grains, but now I think we're just going to store more food stuff there. I don't know, things are gonna get moved around because it doesn't make any sense for the grains to be in there. We've learned with where the grain mill is. I wasn't sure what fabric I wanted to use in here, but one of my daughters said that we needed some red. I picked a stripe. It ends up looking a little bit more pink, but I think it looks really nice. Now, my plan was to basically just hang this on dowel rods. So my son 3D printed me some little brackets, and then Luke mounted them to the table. We put some dowel rods through it, and I sewed this very long curtain with hems on the sides, the bottom, the top, and then some pleat tape. And I just am putting it onto the dowel rods with the pleat hooks. So a really simple curtain, but it adds a ton of style. If you ask me, I love walking into the pantry and seeing it. I think it was a good call to add some red here. Like I was talking about earlier, nothing is ever going to be completely done and completely perfect. No matter what situation you're in, we have to learn to just get today's work done and focus on today's things. I'm definitely a person that has a lot of ideas and goals and dreams, and I'm constantly reminding myself of Matthew 6:34, not to worry about tomorrow, because tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. It isn't possible to fix everything in one day or to get everything done in one day, and you really have to give up even trying to. I love to listen to Jamie and Donna Winship here on YouTube and on Spotify because they really help me to put things into perspective and realize that when I feel like there's not enough time to get everything done, that is a scarcity mentality, and it is just a false belief about ourselves and about the world. So sorry to go on that tangent, but these are things I constantly remind myself about. And along those same lines, today offers certain beautiful seasonal things. Soon, apples will be in season and we'll be able to enjoy all of the beautiful things we can make. Right now, peaches are in abundance. So I've been making a lot of peach recipes around here, and I've been loving to make them with whole grains. So this is a whole grain peach cobbler recipe from my website, farmhouseonboone.com. It's super simple to make with whole grains, but really any recipe can be so easily converted. I know I talk about that a lot, but I also end up getting a lot of questions on how to convert to whole grain. And I just want to encourage you that it's really simple. It doesn't take messing with the recipe a lot. Really, you can basically sub whole grain flour 1-for-1. There are a few key things to know on which type of grain works best and which type of recipe. I like to use soft white wheat for something like this, a cobbler, but hard white would also work great. A recipe like this honestly would work great with ancient grains as well, like einkorn. It's really simple to substitute a whole grain for this recipe. I do recommend always weighing your grains. I think that makes a big difference when it comes with whole grain success. If you want to make sure to have some quick wins, I think it's best to weigh them. And if you want one all-purpose grain and you don't want to worry about which grain goes best with which thing, just use hard for everything. It's tricky when it comes to bread. You want to make sure not to use soft grain or even some ancient grains that have a different gluten structure that won't help you get that nice stretchy dough. That's the only main thing that you need to know. So if you use the grain with that type of gluten, you can use it really for everything because it doesn't go both ways. You can't use soft white for bread, but you can use hard white for everything. So that's just a few key things to know. I share a ton about converting recipes to whole grains here on my channel. You can watch back through videos where I've made basically everything with whole grains, and I'll continue to do so if you want to follow along and hit that subscribe button. With 9 children and a house to maintain, meals to make, and a YouTube channel to manage, I need to take my nutrition seriously in order to keep me going. And so I prioritize nourishing food, from scratch food as much as possible, and I take vitamins from Needed, which is the sponsor of today's video. I took Needed all through my last pregnancy, and now I am right at a year postpartum and still nourishing my body with Needed. And I can definitely feel the difference when I miss and when I am consistent. And I've been pretty good about being consistent, which as I age and there's so many demands on my body, as I'm still nursing Miriam, I've had 9 pregnancies, I am taking that seriously. Pregnancy and postpartum are some of the most nutritionally demanding times in a woman's life. A mom and her baby's health now and for years to come is influenced by her nutrient status. Yet the average prenatal visit in the US is only 12 minutes long, leaving very, very little time to talk about nutrition, which I find interesting because it is such an important foundation that can have so many effects. 95% of women are deficient in at least one key nutrient despite taking a prenatal. Nutrition has the power to change health outcomes. We're not talking about just during pregnancy, but also prenatal and postpartum and lifelong health thereafter. It's so important. Many vitamins include bare minimum nutrition, the wrong doses or ingredients, excess sugar, and or fillers. Needed provides targeted support for women from conception to pregnancy to new motherhood and beyond. Needed doses nutrients beyond the bare minimums, designed to maximize nutrient absorption and with zero tolerance for unnecessary fillers. They formulate their products based on the latest clinical research and clinical insight from women's health experts. Unlike many women's women's vitamins. Needed doesn't rely solely on national nutrition standards, which are often based on bare minimums and lack research on women's specific needs. Needed is recommended by more than 20,000 women's health experts, from nutritionists to midwives, functional medicine doctors, and OBGYNs. Right now, Needed is offering an extra 20% off your order. This includes one-time purchases or already discounted subscriptions and plans. Head to the link in my description box below or use my code FarmhouseHomeBoon at checkout. One of the projects we are working on right now is fencing in the pasture in front of our house. Now, we had to convert this to a pasture, so there's been some work since we purchased this farm on converting that. We've owned this farm for a little over 2 years now, so it's finally at the stage where it really could have some animals on it. We have a lot of dreams on that. Now, speaking of enjoying today and enjoying where we are today with what we have today, we don't yet have fencing, and I do sometimes think about the amount of chores we have and how much more it'll be when we have animals. I'm still looking forward to getting animals, though. That's something that I want here on the farm. I want to give the kids some of that responsibility, and a lot can be learned from having a farm. So I want to do that, but I'm also enjoying this time right now where that project is not completely done. But as it starts to take shape, we have the corner posts in. I can get a vision for what it will look like to have a pasture and gates from our front porch view. Luke's been doing a lot of clearing and a lot of work on that, so it's fun to go on the side-by-side around the farm and take a look at what all is happening on the progress there. Another recipe that beautifully highlights the bounty of summer is this cheesy zucchini quiche. Now, I am making my whole grain pie crust. This is the only pie crust I make anymore. I also sometimes like to add sourdough starter and make a sourdough whole grain pie crust, but pie crust is one of those things where I actually think it tastes better with whole grain. There are some where you're like, okay, I'm doing this for my health. It's better for me to use whole grain, but the taste is definitely better with all purpose. I don't find pie crust to be one of those. I think it actually tastes just as good, if not better, with whole grain, especially using the all butter recipe. It's very flaky. It has a nice texture. I love using it. It's so versatile to use for breakfast, lunch, or dinner, or something savory, something sweet. I find myself making this all the time. I love too that you could make it ahead of time and stash a bunch of them in the refrigerator. Today I made it just as it is over on farmhousehomeboon.com, my whole grain freshly milled pie crust recipe, and put it in the fridge while I prepare the rest of the ingredients for this quiche. This one just has so much flavor with the addition of dill and goat cheese. It is something I very much look forward to. Now, this could be great for brunch. We also will have it for lunch or even dinner. It's high protein and works great for any meal of the day. I was doing a little bit of planning the other day and thinking through some upcoming video ideas and realized that pretty soon I'm going to be transitioning into fall and autumn content, which is both exciting and also a little bit sad. I just love summer so much. With living in a new house and not having established gardens and landscaping and all of that, I am excited about what next summer will bring. And so I'm looking forward to fall to working on some of these things. This year we just put in some herbs and zinnias because I can't live a summer without them, but I am looking forward to what the next year will bring. If you want to follow along throughout the fall as we make cozy recipes, and then leading into Christmas, there'll be some home tours. Make sure to hit that subscribe button. Thank you so much for stopping by our farmhouse.